Hello, and welcome to a vintage episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us today, I'm very excited about Scott Montgomery out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Scott is a major influencer in the drywall space and in other spaces. We talk about his new vintage look, a bit about social media, and how he got his start in this crazy trade.
Yeah, it treated me, pretty well, like the whole thing. And it was just, a natural progression from that drywall talk. And, all of a sudden it's like, well, when we started, it was, you're lucky to get a t-shirt or something like that. And then, it built up and companies started to say, hey, look, this guy's got, 10,000 followers or whatever, right? And maybe, we can use that. And now it's social media is the way, I guess. Companies are all over it, and I get spoiled a bit.
Scott and I travel all over the drywall spectrum, and I feel we've captured over an hour of pure gold on this episode. I hope you feel the same. This episode of the Drywall Podcast and all of the episodes of the Drywall Podcast in the month of October are brought to you by our friends up north in Toronto at CSR. CSR providing awesome building materials, just about anything you could find or want in the drywall space, online, or you can go into their store in Toronto or their new location in Barrie, Ontario. Curious about being on the Drywall Podcast, or maybe you know somebody whom you think would be an awesome interviewee, feel free to email me at info@frescoharmony.com or call me. I'd love to hear from you, 505-400-9313. But for now, Scott Montgomery on the 66th episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. You got your railroad hat on today.
Of course.
Beautiful.
This is my drywaller's hat.
Okay.
It used to say, had a patch on it that said, drywallers are better bangers, but it was misspelled.
Oh, I like that. Drywallers are better bangers. Very nice.
My wife thought it was inappropriate. So.
Your wife thought it was inappropriate.
Yeah. So I was like, but it's a nice hat without it.
It is inappropriate, Scott. But drywallers tend to be inappropriate sometimes.
Yeah, true.
It's the nature of the business. It's like a conductor's hat. I really like it. I'm kind of a hat guy. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I'm starting to embrace the hats in my, it's my new travel thing. Find a hat wherever I go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have a pretty decent collection. You've probably got a decent collection of drywall company hats, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, I've got a stack in there. It's just like,
just a stack. Do you display them?
No, they're just you just have them to choose from during the day, because this is getting further and further back.
Yeah. Cool. Scott Montgomery out of Saskatchewan, Drywall by Design on the Drywall Podcast. How cool is this, dude? I've been trying to wrangle you for a little bit, and really at the end of the day, it wasn't that hard. You were like, let's do it finally. What made you, maybe you were reluctant. I don't know how long ago I tried to get you. Maybe some of these guys are hard to wrangle. Maybe you were reluctant then, but now you're like, okay, well, he's got 64 shows. Maybe it won't be so ghetto. I'll jump on there and do it. What was the shift?
No, it's more of a lazy thing. It's like, oh yeah, check that thing off the list, right? Like, I should talk to Nick.
Yeah, sure. And have you done a podcast before?
Nope.
No? Cool.
No.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time and you coming on. The other question, have you listened to the Drywall Podcast? Have you listened to any of the episodes?
No, I just catch it when I see your videos on the feed. I'm more of a listen to tunes at work I mean, I got into
Yeah,
podcasts because I'm just like hit my music, tune out, right?
me too.
And
Me too.
go to town.
I
If
listen
I listened to
to
a podcast, it would go in one ear out the other, and I would just, my brain couldn't process it.
Yeah, if I'm on a
Too many things going
drive,
on.
I like to listen to them in the car. But I'm that
Yeah.
way at work. I'd rather listen to music at work. That's just me, but a lot of people listen
Mhm.
to podcasts at work. I've realized. So there
Mhm.
we go.
Yeah, you seem like, well, you're a music guy. You're you know, in the scene, right? And that,
Mm.
uh,
I like
a little bit,
music.
aren't you?
I play the guitar.
Yeah.
I'll go live and like play some music on Instagram or Facebook occasionally. I have some original songs, but it's more of a hobby than
Hmm.
anything. I've recently started to collect records. So my friend, one of the friends that I went hiking with, he like does all this vintage like music equipment. So I bought this receiver from like the 1960s and two
Hmm.
speakers, and it just sounds smoking. And I had no
Oh,
idea the power of
ignorance is
records.
bliss, man. It's a rabbit hole because I've gone the same.
Yeah.
Like I've got, well, I have to reset it up since we moved like into this new house. It hasn't been set up again, but I got a really hot turntable with like, a expensive
Oh,
Denon cartridge and you know the whole thing and boxes of records, but they've
okay.
been sitting. They're waiting. They're
Yeah.
waiting for a day.
Yeah, well, I also have so the amp it's a tube amp. It's an old tube amp. It's so cool. It wasn't cheap, but it just sounds amazing. And then
Oh,
he also collects vintage records. And he sells them very reasonably, um, at the record shop here in town. He's got like a small little record shop. And I've just been going in and buying records, $5, $15, $25, like whatever he wants to charge. But they're old. They're from like the 60s and 70s also.
yeah.
And so I'm doing it. I feel like I'm doing it properly. And just the sound is so cool. And so I'm
You
kind
can't
of
beat it.
hooked. Yeah.
I've got a pair of tube amps and but they need love. They're really expensive, same,
Yeah.
and they need a little. I need to find the right guy to fix them, or especially the one. They're so dangerous too if they're not. They're built in the 50s or 60s and
Yeah. They'll burn your house
400
down.
volts pumping through there. So if something goes wrong, I just fried $1,000 amp or $2,000 amp. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. And then I have a tube amp, guitar amplifier, an old Sears Silvertone, same kind that Jack White uses, that just cranks, man. That thing's awesome.
yeah.
You
So
know,
what are you usually listening to? Like,
well, I'm recollecting my record, because I had a huge CD collection that's just like piling, catching dust now. I don't even care about dealing with that. I told him, I'll give you all my CDs. I just want to, because I can listen. I have Pandora. It's like I can listen to any album I want, clear as a
yeah,
bell. That's not the issue. The issue is recollecting all these old albums. But I mean, I've got, some of the newer ones. Uh, but I mean, I've been buying like some of the older stuff, I guess, like classic rock, Grateful Dead, Heart, Elton John, like that kind
oh
of
yeah,
stuff. Like the classic rock. He's got like a Cars. I'm interested in that. I've been listening to Talking Heads a lot lately.
yes.
Like there's a Talking Heads movie coming out. I'm sort of fascinated with David Byrne. And then I'm way into music though. I'll listen, he's got some old Sabbath stuff. I've got some vintage Zeppelin stuff that's really cool. So I'm sort of collecting that first, and then I'll get into other records because I know they have like these, like even grunge records, like Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and all
Oh,
this. They have records for that stuff too.
oh yeah, it's all over the place. I just bought a new one. I went to a show for my birthday, 47th birthday on the weekend. I went and saw Corb Lund. I don't know if you're familiar, but I'd check him out. He's a guy I've been listening to for, I don't know, since I was 16.
Okay.
But kind of a country, definitely country, but
Okay.
modern country. He's really good, kind of folky country.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Ian Tyson kind of influence. Well,
No.
he's another Canadian
No, I
great.
listened to Shaky Graves. He's kind of country. He's pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
Just a dude.
storyteller kind of stuff, like.
Okay. All right.
Mhm. But I bought one of his newer albums. I'm like, okay, now I got to get everything set up, and
Yeah.
so I can listen to that on vinyl,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now I got that.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
gone down the rabbit hole now. I'll never turn back. It's so cool to put a record on. I've never done that. I'm 47 as well. Never put a record on a turntable until a few months ago. I'm hooked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We could talk about music. There's other guests that I've had on the show. We talk about music, but more importantly, we'll get into the drywall stuff. I see you're wearing overalls there. That's another like bridge that I feel like I'm going to come across here pretty quick. Why the overalls?
It's so comfortable.
You like them? They're comfortable. They look comfortable.
Yeah. Like this guy is a guy out of Ohio. He makes these Zach Zace brand, and I got on him when did I get him? Last January when I was in Vegas. I had him send him over, and I'll never go back. No belt, no kind of stuck. I can shove my phone in my pocket.
So you're a recent convert to the overall, yeah or no?
Yeah. Well, I wore overalls like 15 years ago when I drove truck, but
Okay.
but no, it's just this past few months, and now it's like every day.
Okay. Interesting.
I got another pair on the way.
Tell me the brand of these overalls again that you really like.
Zace brand.
How do you spell that?
Zace.
Yeah. Zace. Dig it.
Yeah.
And you found this guy out of Vegas.
No, I've known him I found him on Instagram somewhere. Phil PRC, I think he maybe put me onto him.
Okay.
PRC taping. Yeah, he and so I've been buying jeans off of him, and
okay.
I got a couple of coats, and very like he's got a vintage vibe workwear,
okay.
Right?
I'll check it out. Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, you've got the engineer hat. You kind of have a train look, like you're ready to go conduct a train.
Well, that's like I'm working on rebranding, and I actually just got the name registration confirmation as I was waiting for this.
Beautiful.
And so I want to go for like kind of that old vibe.
Yeah.
My new name, it just got registered, is the Smooth Finish Ceiling Co. So that'll be I don't think I'll change it on Instagram, but for operating in Saskatoon here, and I want to go for that. I've got a vintagey kind of logo planned out. Kind of that 50s vibe.
Yeah.
Go with that and kind of present myself that way. So
neat. Are you looking to maybe sell more swag that way?
No.
This is just for you.
No, this is just branding in town, really going after that ceiling market, right? And get my logos done up. I've never done much for marketing, right? In my work, it's always just been word of mouth and take work as it comes. And now I want to kind of focus. I've been working on focusing just on ceiling refinishing, and I just want to be able to pick my jobs, and so you need more jobs coming in if you want to pick and choose and just go after that, and then expand, maybe some kids working for me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, before we get into what's occurring now, let's back up a little bit. I met Scott in Dallas, actually. I was wandering around the Dallas AWCI. It was Intex at that time show, and I kind of bumped into you. I think you were kind of one of the first, drywall people that I really met, besides like maybe I knew Joe and like Scott, but one of some of the influencers that I met through this show this has been a new for me, branching out into other, terrain of the drywall industry. This show's been hugely popular to get, the Fresco Harmony brand going. But like just getting connected with a lot of people in the industry, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, like some of the social media is kind of getting polluted, I think. It's gonna kind of be in this evolution. I mean, I think we were first chatting 15 years ago on drywalltalk.com, right?
Yeah.
That's what got all this started. And then there's a nice community on Instagram, and it's kind of Instagram's getting maybe a little bit toxic. And then,
how so?
Well, it's how do you say it? Just constant popularity contest. I mean, it's polluted with all sorts of stuff. You don't see what you want to see anymore. I think maybe it's just too much there.
Yeah.
So you go and well, I don't see what I want to see, and it's just feeding me garbage, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't get to see, the drywallers that I want to see. It's feeding me what it thinks I want to see, which isn't.
Yeah, the algorithms or whatever, and how how your feed is populated with posts. Yeah,
because it built a pretty nice community. There's still a community there, but
Do you have a Scott Montgomery page, or do you just have a Drywall by Design page?
I have a photo page that I post. I haven't posted there for a while, but it's just
okay.
Scott M. Montgomery, I think. And I put my photos there that I think are decent, just photos, kind of, because that's one of my hobbies.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we hung out.
Go through and find the ones from Vegas, and post them up and onto Instagram from one.
Yeah, because we were hanging out, we were cruising around, having fun with Aaron and Sean and all those characters, and you were taking photos, and Intex Build 23 was fun. It was a pretty good time. I mean, all things considered, it was a lot of fun, and met some people, and that night in particular was a lot of fun hanging out, and you were cruising around taking photos. So yeah, we should unearth some of those photos. When I edit this, I could maybe even splice some of them in, and we'll point people towards your photo page too. Because I do think it's important to
edit it. I just have to deal with them and
okay.
I'm bad.
Well, maybe grab a couple and we can throw them up on the show, or I can use them as advertisement leading up to our show. So that'd be cool. How did you get going in drywall, Scott? How did you find this crazy industry?
Yeah, my family is insurance, and
beautiful.
I didn't want to pick up the reins on that one. My wife actually, that's her gig, not the same side of insurance as my family's, but I'm not a desk person, right?
Right.
So, well, way back, I got my trucking license when I was 19 or something like that.
Okay.
And at one point, I went out to Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay.
Just to get away from Saskatoon for a bit, and then a family friend put me in touch with a drywall contracting outfit, Crystal Drywall in Edmonton, and he put me on because I needed to work out there, and put me on with a guy, and I worked with him for a few months. This is maybe 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, I was young, like 22.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had to get out of Edmonton. It was not my scene. So that left that, went back to trucking, and did that for another 10 years, I think. And then I was just sick of it, right? Sick.
Yeah. I
was working for a big outfit, and just the management and all the crap that went on with it, and long hours, right? I was driving. I would leave home at 5 a.m, wouldn't get home till 7 o'clock at night. Went to see my kids, like they weren't up when I left, and they were in bed by the time I got home.
Okay.
And then you'd get laid off in the winter time. It was because I was driving a concrete mixer, right? So
Okay.
I found a guy on a site and I was like, hey, if I wanted to get back into drywall, you know, who do I talk to? Like, um, kind of handy. Like I've always worked
So
on rental
wait a second
properties.
though. Let me stop you. You liked drywall for some reason. You had a taste of it, and then you went back to trucking or something, but the seed had been planted and you were like, something about that mud I really like. I want to get back
Yeah.
into that. That was you. And you were
Yeah. Well,
like,
I mean, I saw it. I mean,
something about it fascinated you.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've always worked on, DIY stuff. My family's always had rental properties, so I've always,
Okay.
since when I was younger and learned, a bit of the trade. Uh, I never mastered it the first go round, but I got kind of the hang of it. Uh, but then I was like, hey, I could do that again. I mean, I need a change, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm pretty uh, afflicted with ADHD pretty hard, so
Okay.
I need
Sure.
constant change, right?
Yeah.
Is kind of the thing with me. It's just I can't stay doing the same thing day after day, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, I wanted to change. Found a guy. He's like, yeah, I'll take you on. Well, I'll try you out, right?
Yeah.
And so I went worked for him for a couple of days. He said if it works out, and then he said, sure, I'll give you $20 an hour. So I told my wife, hey, I'm quitting my union Teamsters job with pension and
Yeah.
benefits
Yeah.
and everything.
I'm gonna go be a
And
drywaller.
I'm gonna go be a drywaller. I'm gonna be a taper.
She's
She was
like,
thrilled. I think she was
okay.
pregnant at
All
the
right.
time too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was oh
So she's
pushing
like,
15
okay,
years.
you do that. You do that. I'll file for divorce and we'll
Yeah,
meet back here. We'll meet back here on Sunday.
yeah, yeah. It was I mean, but it worked out. I mean, it was a definite change, right? So I worked
Yeah.
for him for about maybe a year. And it was funny because um, back then, Christmas time, I think it was around Christmas. He says one day calls me to the shop, Scott, I don't think it's working out. And he was a one-man show. He's kind of same size, um, kind of same outfit as I am now, maybe,
Okay.
or I was a few years back, doing just one-man show. He just
All
hired
right.
me on and said, I don't think you're going to cut it out, make it as a taper. I don't think you're cut out for it.
Okay.
I was like, okay, well, shit. Uh, well, and this is Christmas time, which is a bummer. And then he took off
Yeah.
to Hawaii. I think he was just couldn't keep someone. It was hard to
Right.
keep work, right? And
It
I totally
wasn't
understand.
your
I
it
get it.
wasn't
Like
your performance.
I don't. I think it was more just like uh, he just didn't want to have to manage someone else, right? And keep work. And I get that. Find enough work to keep someone employed. And
Yeah.
I get that. I mean,
Yeah.
at the time I was miffed, but after uh, my career in drywall, I see, oh yeah, well, I mean,
It's a bitch.
keeping enough work to support someone else and have someone else rely on you
Yeah.
uh, to find that work, it can be
Yeah.
stressful, right? You know,
Yeah.
and so, but then I just started getting my own jobs, and
Okay. So you went out on your own right after that.
yeah, I just
He had taught you enough that you felt comfortable going on your own.
yeah, I I was working for him for a year, and we were doing a lot of custom homes, RTMs, and everything. Big stuff. I had learned a fair bit about the trade, so I went and started
Yeah.
doing repair work, insurance work, and whatnot. I got my first. I went to got Can-Am tools. I got a basic set of tools from the Canrock here.
Okay.
A tube and some flushers and stuff
Okay.
because he had all his tools. I had my pan and knife and stuff. And Canrock is
What?
our local supplier. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
Canrock.
How
I
do you
went down to
spell that?
Kenroc.
Ken Rock.
So
Okay.
yeah. So I
That's a
went down
drywall
there.
distributor. So you went down there and you were like, I need some drywall tools. I'm gonna buy a tube and some flushers.
Yeah, well, that's how I had learned to tape. Um, well, the guy I worked for ran a bazooka,
Yeah.
and he had just started using boxes. Most of it had been hand finishing, but he went and got some North Star boxes
Okay.
shortly before we parted ways. But it was mostly
Yeah.
hand finishing, then running the Can-Am tubes and flashers for
Okay.
angles and whatnot, right?
So, okay. But that was that was a good way to start, right? I mean, for you.
Well, it's cheap, right? That's a cheap way to get into it, and for bang for your buck, right? So I was like, well, this is a no-brainer. This is the first set of tools for doing just small jobs. I'm going to go and grab my tube and applicators and flashers. And,
okay.
So did that. Insurance jobs just got bigger and bigger, and then took on a big job, which and it didn't charge near enough. Like, what was it? Yoga studio or something like that.
Okay.
Friend of a friend's kind of thing, and so it's like, okay, well, buy a full tape tech set, boxes, bazooka, learn how to run the bazooka, because with my old boss, I'd only ever filled a bazooka for him. I never actually run it.
So, yeah, but you knew how fast it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that first one was a little frustrating because it was a tape tech and it was kind of stubborn, and
Well, I've heard good things about tape tech. You didn't have a good experience with tape tech out of the gate?
Oh no. My box handle broke like the third job. The tape was always jamming up.
Yeah.
And then didn't take long, and I was switched full to Columbia.
You went to Columbia at that point. Okay.
Yeah. Saw the light. I found a used Columbia taper, and I bought a brand new box handle.
Okay.
And in tracking down secondhand stuff, that's kind of the way I rolled for a long time. Just like find somebody who's selling a box or.
Okay. What's our timeline here at that point? Maybe you've been on your own for 2 years, 3 years. You're like
it was pretty
20,
quick.
25, 26?
No, I was early 30s then. I was
okay by then. Okay.
32, 33.
Okay.
I started, then a couple, maybe.
But that was right around Drywall Talk time if you were 32 or 33. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was right in there, Drywall Talk, because I learned so much from those old guys like Two Buck Canuck and the Captain and everybody on there, right? Because
it was such a weird platform. Well, I remember trying to talk about the color joint compound. Everybody just fucking ghosting me, and I was like, "Fuck this site, man!" It pissed me off so much. It's like, yes, I could talk about. I thought I had this revolution, like that I was going to bestow upon the drywall community, and nobody could give two shits. It was very
drywallers. They don't want to change. I mean,
no, it was very frustrating.
That site was arguing whether pan and knife or hawk and trowel was better, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think too, people were learning like that was the first foray into like being mean to each other. Like everybody was just so mean. It was and then I like went over to Facebook and I was like, well, they're still mean, but they're not as mean. And, like there's more of them over in Facebook. So like, screw that site. And I was like, just done with it,
Yeah, that's where I got my start with all of this. I think, I was making YouTubes for, showing off what am I working on today, right? If I look back at my first videos, that was it, right? Doing site tours, or Two Buck Canuck making videos showing me how to use hawk and trowel, because I learned pan and knife, and then basically learned hawk and trowel over the internet and Drywall Talk,
So that was instinctual. You starting to create videos. You saw maybe what some of these old schoolers were doing, and you were like, I'm going to create like content so that I can show what I'm doing. And you were posting, because that's pretty early. My YouTube videos go back about that far, but I feel like I was even early on YouTube, like 12 years ago, like early videos.
Yeah, way back. I mean,
way back.
Using a phone. And
yeah.
And then I wish I would have kept up YouTube. Now I have to restart it and stuff. I've got actually push that channel.
I've always seen YouTube as an extremely valuable tool in that you can make a YouTube video and then just like somebody's like, hey, Nick, how do I patch blah, blah, blah? Or, what are you doing to mix mud? And it's like, copy YouTube video, paste it to the text. Here, check out this video. This is how I make samples. Done.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's good for that. And it's a good place to keep all your video content. Like, I don't even care, like, if they click on a video and it goes from my website to YouTube, like, I don't care about any of that. It's like, yeah, fine. Go subscribe to the YouTube page,
Yeah. Well, you can put in stuff and it'll stay there, right? That's another thing on the to-do list, is really move more that direction and
sure.
Make stuff that's valuable. Like Lydia Drywall Shorty, she's, probably the best teacher on here, right?
She's so good. Yeah.
Right. Really skilled, her and Peck Drywall.
Yeah. Paul Peck. Yeah.
Really good.
I've tried to get him. He's, I feel like some people maybe aren't ready, or they're like nervous, so they don't want to do it, but they don't really want to say that they're nervous to come on the show. So they just kind of like don't do it. Or maybe they just don't want to do it. I don't know. But like, I think Paul falls into that category, but I'd love to interview him and be like, dude, how do you have so many freaking followers? It's crazy, the amount of followers that he does.
He caters to a market that's much larger than most, right? I mean, like I'm catering, well, a lot of people cater to professional drywallers, right? And he's catering to the DIY market.
The DIYer. Right? Here's how you mix up a batch of mud. And I think Lydia's like following suit there too. Yeah. She's doing a lot more newbie videos, which is smart.
Yeah, well, definitely, because most drywallers, like, I know how to drywall, I can't learn anything.
Yeah.
That's the curse of us, so many.
Yes.
I've tried to buck that trend, throughout my career. I don't drywall the same way 2 jobs in a row. I mean, I'm always like switching the way I do whatever process, running angles. I'm like, I'm going to try it this way this time, and hopefully it works, right?
I have an example of that. Do you have an example of within the last 2 weeks where you learned something new that you had been putting off or didn't think that you would do it that way and you switched? Because I have an example.
Yes. Well, a couple.
Besides overalls.
Stick in your ways, right?
Besides overalls.
Yeah. One is, I always, I don't have a knife here, but I always wondered why guys would go and like coat with a trowel or whatever, or a knife, and then clean their edges with a 5-inch or something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of, like, I've always cleaned my edge with whatever trowel or 10-inch knife I've been using at the time.
Sure.
And then I was watching ZK.
Okay.
No, not ZK. TK.
Teak drywall. Teak drywall.
Drywall.
TK. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's his wife's name? Maria or Marie. Their stuff is gorgeous, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching him, and he does that. Like, why does he do that? Then it kind of tweaked. It makes a really nice looking joint, right?
Sure.
Very straight, because the knife is stiffer, and it's not wobbling a bit. And it's just something that clicked. Same that, and what's the other thing? Oh, talking to Tech Dry.
Okay.
I was actually chatting with him on my phone. When we were in Vegas. It was. Just talking about tools and knives, and I was like, well, what's the real difference in blue steel and stainless? It's just something I never really thought about, right?
Sure.
I've used stainless knives forever. Right?
Yeah.
It's just the way I worked. And it's like, well, blue steel, I mean, they're tougher, and you can sand out nicks and stuff. They don't bend. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Any blue steel knives I have are ancient.
Yeah.
And I've got a pile of broken nicked stainless knives. And it's just something that you think you'd learn. And to a lot of people, like, nah, no kidding. Like, and I tried so many things, and the newest and the greatest and the latest, and like this old school knowledge, this thing that I just, was stubborn And
Yeah. I always use steel because I noticed on the larger knives they would wave. The stainless would wave. And so I was like, fuck that. I would rather have my knife stay straight, especially the 12, 14 or whatever. So I just started using blue steel. And then it's like in your head, blue steel's better, or, And so, but when it goes to trowels, like I always use blue steel, but with the new sealer, it started to rust really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And then the rust would get into your stuff. You can't clean the sealer off, just a nightmare. With the pool trowel that we use, a 14-inch pool trowel, the stainless is better because the shank doesn't allow so much space for it to wave. It cleans better. It has more flex, like a myriad of reasons why the stainless is better. But that didn't occur to me till a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. Most recently, though, my guy Jack, and you might think this is stupid, but like I've always been like, I just use 90-minute quick set. Like I just use 90-minute, gives me plenty of time. I don't waste any quick set. and my guy Jack's like, oh, I use 5-minute. And then I was watching Mudman Dan. He's a big 5-minute mud guy, and I'm like, how can you even use 5-minute? You don't even have time to like mix it up. Well, I was doing some patches this last week, like several rounds of patches. Like, it's like they build up, and then I got to go back and do all these colored patches. And sure as shit, man, that 5-minute worked like a fucking champ, man. and it took a little bit. I had to figure out like, I mixed too much and it went off too quick, because I'm used to mixing up a lot of quick set. And then I mixed up just the right amount and I was able to put it on. And you don't want to use any muddy water, like warm water with that shit. Like there's no messing around with 5 minutes. Like mix up the exact amount, clean water, go put it on. And I'm sold. I'm sold now, but there was like a week-long learning curve is all.
Yeah. 5 minutes has its place. It's handy. Here, unfortunately, like we can only get it in tiny little bags. So
okay.
Like too expensive. You got to go to Home Depot and pay Home Depot prices for like a little bag. At one point I did buy like a case of it just to have, right? Handy.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Most of my work is repair work, right? Fixing ceilings and going in and patching them.
Sure.
But I just have a big tub of 20-minute now. I'm kind of in the middle.
Okay, in the middle. Yeah.
20 is usually fast enough. By the time you come around again, it's hard, right? And by the time you go to your truck and mix up some more. And
I don't know if you do this, but instead of carrying the bags around that get ripped and are super messy, I'll put it into one of my gallon sealer buckets. Like I'll clean out a gallon sealer bucket with a lid. And I find that keeps it really clean. And then I've always got a little bit of quick set on me.
I usually have it in my trailer because I use it quite a bit. I have like a pail, like a 4-gallon pail, I think it is.
Okay.
And it fits a bag pretty much perfect.
Oh, there you go.
So I just dump in, I've got my Durabond, a pail of Durabond labeled on it, and 45 minutes, 20 minutes. And
there you go.
And concrete fill, which I don't think you guys have down there. I think it's pretty much a Western Canadian thing, but it's a miracle compound. It's the best.
What's it called?
I got concrete fill. It's only in Western Canada as far as I know.
Okay.
And it's a setting compound, but it's got like fiberglass in it, a bit of fiberglass reinforcement and an aggregate. So
beautiful.
You can really fill large holes with it, big gaps. And then it doesn't get hard like Durabond. Like it's hard, but you can scrape it, where Durabond is no, you're kind of out of luck if you
so it's strong and malleable.
Yeah, so you can kind of scrape it down, you fill a big blowout or whatever.
Okay.
And it doesn't shrink. It's amazing.
Interesting.
It's only for us cool guys in Western Canada.
Yeah.
I think Winnipeg and East. That's it. It's quite strange.
Okay. We have stuff called Structilite down here. You probably have that. You have that.
We don't have that. But I think that's as far as I've, deduced the closest thing.
It's badass. Right? Yeah.
Really
you can fill.
Well, I want to get someone like Aaron to sponsor a big meetup where we all bring our compound and our our different, methods from around North America, because it's so different.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned on this, social media and the internet is people that they argue over these things. It's like, well, he's using different materials.
Yeah.
He's got a different environment. It's completely different. So your way might be right where you are, but it's not right where he is.
And atmospheric, it's dry down here. It's dry and hot down here in the Southwest. 5 minutes kind of, you don't really need it. Yeah, I mean, regular mud will go off pretty quick, so it's a little different. But I mean, I think the Drywall podcast has done that a little bit. It's created, because if you go back, we do have people that listen to the episodes pretty religiously. We have 11,000 downloads, but like you're talking about, I'll interview people and we'll ask similar questions. We'll talk about, we get into pricing a lot and like these sorts of things, and it's different from region to region, and you kind of start to get an idea. As far as a meetup, there was some talk on the table of CSR hosting like a Drywall Olympics, and we were talking about that a little bit, which would be a lot of fun, and I don't think it's off the table. But we're just in sort of discussion about it. And I gotta
make an order for 5 of Fuse, the big sheets of it, just while thinking about CSR. So,
I have a case of that shit, man. It's awesome. We just did a wood tongue and groove ceiling, and you like mud it up with like Quickset, and in that instance you would use 90 because it just gives you plenty of time. Mud up the tongue and groove, and then sheet the whole thing with fiber fuse.
Really? You went right over wood? Like,
I went over tile recently, dude. Tile, no joke.
What?
Fiber fusing,
like a good bonding primer or something?
No, just Quickset. No primer. I've done. The first time I did it was like 15 years ago. Never fell off. Never failed.
I just I did a tongue and groove ceiling. I didn't use mud though. I just it was a big house. It was funny because they had flipped it, or someone had built it and it's brand new. Well, not brand new. They renovated it. Sorry. And I think they had done it for their parents, and their parents decided, no, actually, we don't want that house. We don't want to move.
Okay.
And they had put a pile of work into it, and one of the things was a tongue and groove ceiling, like a shiplap or whatever.
Was it painted?
Painted white, yeah.
Okay.
And so the new owners, they didn't want it.
Yeah.
So then these people had like ripped out the entire ceiling.
Okay.
And put up OSB on the ceiling, and then nailed the shiplap or tongue groove up to the whole ceiling. And then the new owners went and said, we don't want that, come and sheet over it. So brand new, never been lived in. And so I went in and went to town, but the house is moving. They just had me back. There's big cracks in it. It's like, oh man, you've got a foundation issue. Like,
now, I mean, there's a question. Would it be faster to fiber fuse over the top of it or resheet it and refinish,
For me, just resheet it, call my guys, and they had it boarded, and,
no problem.
1,000 square feet of ceiling. They had it boarded in, a day. And I came in and just taped it like a new construction, right? Brand new drywall.
Okay.
And rather than spending all that time, I mean, and also that it wasn't solid on there either. Like the tongue and groove was kind of,
you have a little flex.
It was a DIY kind of flipping kind of situation, right? So there's a lot of stuff like, ooh.
I don't want to get too stuck on certain things. I did want to talk about your, the photography interests me a little bit. The fact that you are an influencer. How did that come to be? Like, you started making due to Drywall Talk, maybe you just started getting good at making these influential type videos, or videos where you're explaining things. And did companies start to reach out to you early on? How did that go?
That was, Drywall Talk started making videos. And then another forum I was on back then was the Festool Owners Group.
Okay.
Just do like the plain X sander, right? Because I was early in, like I was power sanding way back. It wasn't long after I went on my own that I ran into a guy, and He's like, showed me his Porter cable. I'm like, you can't power sand drywall? No way.
Yeah.
Like, no, man, you can't. Watch this.
Yeah.
So I went and got myself a Porter cable, and then shortly after that, the Plane X was released, bought that, and so then I was on the, geeked out on festival.
Yeah, you like trying new tools. Like you have that weird exoskeleton tool.
Like I
like
said,
sometimes
every job I would change up and so it's right now I'm focusing on like I need a system. I want a system that I can train guys on.
Yeah.
This is every job we do exactly the same, but
yeah.
In the past, I very much it's like I'm gonna run my angles with a flusher and then an angle head, or an angle head then a flusher. I'm gonna use this mud, that mud.
Right. I guess that could be a loop. That could be a bad loop that you get into where it's like there's so many different methods that you try something new every job and you never get any faster. Sometimes I see your setup with like the sanding and you've got the exoskeleton and you've got all this stuff and your tool belt, and it's like it must take that guy like an hour to get just to get ready to like work.
I mean, I am bad for that, like because I'm a tool geek, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? I need all this stuff and I spend so much time setting up. But yeah, I mean, it's so nice. Like when I'm almost 50, right?
Yeah.
So, and having my arms over my head for hours on end, sanding a ceiling. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that tool. What's it called? It's made by Hilti, correct?
Yeah, it's the Exo S is the new one.
Exo S.
Second iteration.
Okay.
And it just gives a little. It's like bungee cords. It gives you a little bit of help right here.
Okay. And then
like someone comes up behind you and just lifts your arms a bit.
Okay. So okay. I can get with that. I can get with that. Is the Exo S, the modifications that they've made to like the second, pretty substantial? I mean, have you used both?
It's all about comfort and adjustability, right?
Okay.
Hilti is very much a tool crib type company. Big, we aren't their market as much as giant corporations. So they go out and, subscribe to their, fleet system. And it's a company that's going to buy 10 of those things and have them in the crib and they're being shared. Right.
Okay.
So this thing now it's got, you just go and set it to your size medium and, adjust it. And you can do that quickly, where the old one was very finicky on adjusting and setting it up to fit you and whatnot. It took a little bit.
And you like that tool. Now, okay, how much does that tool cost? Like, what's the retail price on that?
Now it's $1,000 US. They came down on a new one.
For somebody like me, would you say, is it worth it to drop $1,000 on this exoskeleton and the time it takes to put it on? These are legit questions.
Once it's set up for you, it's like putting on a backpack. So how long does that take?
No biggie. Okay.
Yeah. And for me, it's a savior, right? Like, cause you're sitting there, well, and it's even got the new one's got a neck headrest. It's
got a little neck thing.
And that is just so nice. You sit there, and I try, like, I go back and I'm like, some days when I'm doing a ceiling and I work without it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is, I mean, a lot of guys say, oh, you're getting weak or whatever, but Sir Sands a lot. I don't know if you've seen him.
Your muscles are atrophying.
Yeah. I mean, Sir Sands a lot, who's a guy in Edmonton, I think, does the same job as me, ceilings.
Okay.
He's a power lifter. He uses
he uses one.
Yeah.
He gets his workout at the gym. He's like, I'll do my workout properly. Because I get that thing right in the shoulder. I'm holding the hawk. I'll get it right there. If I'm doing
this all day, and that thing doesn't restrict you, which is really nice. You can be like this. I mean, I don't, like, now I'm all spraying. I'm sitting on the ground and, my big blades, none of this anymore.
Yeah.
Because that destroys you. And then, you wake up days like this, and you're like, I can't move. Time to go to the chiro or the massage therapist, right? So for me, I mean, for guys that are doing the ceilings, I think it's worth it. I mean, when you're like this for hours on end, maybe not, just regular drywall taping, it's good, but the ceilings is where it's really at, right?
Very cool. Yeah, that one has always interested me, and at the same time, I pull the drywall card where I'm like, that's stupid, Like I'm just like any other drywaller. I'm like, I have in the back of my head,
Oh yeah.
I'm put down everything,
Well,
until you
I think it's
try it
just
or
something you got to try.
talk to somebody about it, and it's like, oh, okay, well that makes sense, I
Yeah.
could try that
Well,
out.
and they're coming out with more. I'm actually going to Hilti. Um, in 2 weeks, I leave.
Cool,
Going over to Switzerland, Liechtenstein, another
beautiful,
Hilti event. Um, so I'm gonna go see what they've got. A bunch of new stuff on up their sleeve, and I think
cool.
I'm gonna guess there's gonna be like that one's XOS for XO shoulders,
Okay.
and they've teased that there's gonna be more. So maybe they'll have one
Sure, it
in a
runs all the
couple
way
weeks
down the
here.
body, maybe for legs or whatever too.
Yeah, knees or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I head there on the event's on the 24th, but I fly to Paris next week, I think it is. I go have a
Very
little
cool.
holiday. Yeah,
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. I
yeah,
dig that. I dig that, Scott. You're always up to cool new things and showing people in the drywall community how to, use these different tools and, get better at the trade. And I think that's super cool. And you're sharing your stuff. And I mean, even some of the photography stuff, I think I've seen some of that where you're out in a field or something, picking daisies and taking
yeah,
photos. I dig
yeah.
that
I just
stuff.
got like we just traveled across North America this summer, and I just got a bunch of film
Love it.
processed,
Yeah.
like analog stuff. Oh, some of it's just good. I'm just like I got
Yeah.
this little film camera that's cost me $200 I got in Stockholm. I'm like I
Okay.
can ditch my big rig, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's treated me, I mean, pretty well, like the whole thing. And it was just, yeah, a natural progression from that drywall talk. And, all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
like, well, when we started, it was, you're lucky to get a t-shirt or something like that. And then, just it built up and companies started to say, hey, look, this guy's got, 10,000 followers or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
maybe, we can use that. And now it's, social media is the way, I guess. Companies are all over it, and I get spoiled a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for our trade, it absolutely is. Because what are you going to do? Throw a commercial on TV about the new bazooka?
Yeah.
I mean, people don't care. I mean, the Hilti tool can be used by many different trades. That's kind
Mhm.
of a unique one. But, drywall specific tools, there really is no way to market outside of influencers,
Mhm.
in the space. Instagram is, it's a
Yeah.
direct link to these people.
I think it's really forwarded the whole, industry. Well, amongst the people that are involved, I'm always curious. Well, you run into guys that, they don't watch Instagram, they don't do anything. They're just old school tapers, and they're stuck in their ways. But there's so much that's being developed between different companies like Can-Am and Columbia, and
Yeah,
all that,
yeah,
smoothing blades and
yeah,
and different applicators and flushers and products. And well, Trimtex is a huge one. They had a huge
yeah,
part in me developing my company. Like I went down to, well, I met Joe,
yeah, yeah,
2012 or something like that. I went to Chicago in
yeah.
2014, way back before Instagram.
If you haven't been to Trimtex to do the drywall art training stuff and learn about their specialized beads and some of their regular beads, I highly recommend it. It's well worth the money, and those guys are so cool over there, and it's just a
Oh,
phenomenal facility to see.
yeah, Joe and well, Noe, who's
Yeah,
one of the product guys, some of my favorite people. I always look forward to
yeah,
seeing them. And
yeah,
I mean, well, Joe, when I met Joe was, yeah, I don't know, 15 years ago. I don't know, or maybe not, no, not quite 15. It was 2013, I think, maybe. And I thought he was a salesman. He came to my job and just kind of,
uh-huh,
selling me on Trimtex. And he was a salesman.
yeah,
He was doing his route. And then I got a call later saying, the president wants to send you this corner roller or sander or something like that. Like the president. Yeah, Joe Koenig. Like that was the president?
yeah,
What? Nicest
yeah,
guy. But
yeah,
it's Yeah, it was really good. Unfortunately, it sounds like they discontinued a lot of the decorative crown moldings and
yeah. So I have a podcast with Joe early on. He was, he's always been supportive of Fresco Harmony. I reached out to him right away. I was like, hey man, I'm doing this podcast. I want you to be on. And he was totally, heck yeah, let's set it up. And we talk about discontinuing those products and why. And, they're still available. You can order those products sort of special order, which I don't think a lot of people know. But then if you have never used Step Bowl or Chamfer or whatever, you wouldn't know to even order them. But it's such cool stuff. I had the opportunity to do 2 full houses in Step Bowl, 3/4 inch, 350, and also the return. All of the doors were return step.
Yeah,
it was a bitch. But it was really cool. Like there's no other house like that,
Yeah, I've done a few. Like I got into that drywall art thing, and it was cool. I mean, wainscoting. I did a couple jobs like full wainscoting and like everything.
Yeah,
doors trimmed out all the doors with drywall.
Yeah,
super fun. So much work. I mean, it's like, how do you charge for this, right?
They were so cool, and that's just something a drywall guy could throw an extra 10 grand if the builder knew about it. If they were aware, if the drywall guy had the capacity to sell, but I don't think as drywall guys, we're inclined to be salesmen. We just kind of want to go do the job, finish it, smooth it out, we can either paint it or let the painter come in.
I struggle with the sales part. That's same with that. I've tried the Venetian plaster and the drywall crown moldings and all that, and I'm not like Joe. That's that sales pitch thing. It's just not my forte. Doing the work, that's why I like this ceiling refinishing. Everybody, well, I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of houses where I am that have a popcorn ceiling, and there's a transition right now from that generation that owned those houses to my generation or a little bit younger that are buying them up and saying, I'm whacking out these walls. I want a new ceiling. So they're willing to pay, and you don't really have to look for the work as much. It's not a sales pitch. It's like, look, I can make your ceiling flat. It's going to be perfect. And they go, okay, I want that. I hate this texture.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
Like trying to sell Venetian plaster, you're like, well, it's, trying to explain it or fresco or drywall art. For me, it's like, it's a process, and you gotta like sell someone on it, right?
Well,
and, like, builders are stuck in their ways
with popcorn, with the popcorn ceilings. We do a bunch of those. They don't have to paint. I mean, they have to pick a color, but you smooth the ceiling out, because you grind all that popcorn off, and then you have this ugly ass where they just did a base coat or a tape and 2 coat. It looks like crap. So now I can just smooth the ceiling out twice and seal it, and then they don't have to paint. So that's kind of like, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. And we'll go over the popcorn in some instances, especially if it has asbestos. We do encapsulation. I don't know if you do that. Do you get into that, or do you have them abate the popcorn?
Well, I want to try encapsulating it. I got all trained up on the abatement, and the training scared me.
Yeah, what a bitch. Fuck that.
I don't want to touch that. Like this stuff is scary.
Well, you get into the bureaucracy of like, sickness and all. Now it's like you're guaranteeing nobody's going to get sick, and it's like, fuck that, dude. I'll come in and run mud over. Sign here that says that I'm not responsible. Go ahead.
Like dealing with the government, like the money, it's so many hoops to jump through, just to do an abatement thing. And the government doesn't give any help. They say you can't take asbestos out without training and all this other stuff, but they don't give you help for training or any subsidizing for the people who are taking it out. So there's gonna be a ton of people just going, I'm not following the rules. I'm just gonna take it out, contaminate someone's house.
Or, I mean, it's honestly, I'm so fast at skimming anyways that I can skim out a popcorn ceiling because people don't consider the mess. I see the Festool like burning that popcorn off. It looks fabulous, but you're still getting particles that are airborne. In that instance, it's not 100% clean, but it's pretty.
No, I'd say it's
pretty
like,
darn clean.
No, but it's not near clean enough for asbestos. And
no,
I can like, well, I use a sprayer, right, and to put my mud on. I just have my Mark V, so I just stand there and load it on, so I can bury it.
Cool.
I haven't done a full sealing of like where I haven't sanded it at all yet.
Okay.
I'd like to try it, but most of the time that like I almost prefer a painted sealing. Then I just give it a quick shot just to like level everything out a little bit.
There you go.
And then bury it, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise it just chatters. You go along, it chatters, and you got to really float it and put it on a pile of mud.
Yeah, my guy Jack will like take his 12 and like scrape it, scrape the like tips off, before he goes back. But stuff is still going airborne at that point. What I've found is if you get it wet, even with the painted popcorn, if I lay that mud out and let it sit, even a big like 4 foot, 5 foot section, it'll lay down, like, and then you go back and you mud it out. It'll actually, that moisture will seep through and it'll like lay down a little better than if you just try to cover it. Then you get the ridges. If you lay a bunch of mud out, it'll kind of compress a little bit. That's just what I've found. So I like do sections at a time, or whatever.
Yeah, every ceiling's different. It's just for me. I mean, someone's painted it with different paint, different order, different texture. Well, and so like the last job I did, it's just I went in there and this big like almost 2,000 square feet of ceilings, multi-levels, vaults, and I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. This is this stuff will come down easy. No, I was fighting it like it was in between, like it was painted a little bit in a good part of it, so it was hard to take off, but it was too easy to take off to leave it and just coat it, right? Because it'd probably just fall.
Okay.
So I was almost thinking like I should have just wet it and scraped it, even though I'm stubborn. I'm just like, I have my system.
Yeah.
Every job I sand it, I coat it. I don't scrape. That's not my job.
Yeah.
And that one I was kind of thinking it probably would have been easier just to come in there with a paint sprayer and just soak it all with water.
Yeah.
Scrape it.
Yeah.
In hindsight, but it's like I have my system and I want to be able to, just, have higher university students to come in or whoever, young guys, and just, this is what you do. These are the steps. Here, it's written down. Step 1, mask. Step 2, sand. Step 3, and on and on. So
yeah. Interesting. That's a tough road.
You got to kind of pivot a bit, not be so stubborn. But
you're diving into the realm of the possibility of hiring people to help. That seems like a challenging endeavor.
I would like to. We'll see. I'm not very good at managing.
Yeah.
It's not my forte. I've done big custom jobs and stuff and had, subcontracted stuff out and had guys work for me, and it's stressful, right? I mean, especially drywall. Drywall. I mean, some are great. Others not so much. I can't imagine the guys I see that are running like 10 plus crews. I've got friends that are doing, they've got all sorts and they can manage. My dad's best buddy used to be the biggest game in town, and he'd have like 15 crews or 20 crews going around, right? I'm just like, how do you do that?
The dude I interviewed that drops tomorrow from Las Cruces, he's got like 60 guys. We talk about subbing and some how he pays and things like that. It just seems really hard, like.
Well, I see there's a guy just down the street from me who has one of the bigger outfits in town right now. I see the guys Friday, you can see them driving down, the drywallers in their cars. It's like, oh yeah, going to get paid, pick up their paychecks. It's funny because you
Yeah.
can spot them a mile away. They're going to get their checks and, pick them up at the boss's place. And,
Yeah. So you get set up a little roadblock and just like peel a couple of them off, pay them a couple of dollars extra.
Well,
Go ahead and hunt those guys.
I don't want a drywall. I don't want to hire drywallers. I want to hire green guys that,
You want to hire green people?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to hire young guys that are, got strong backs, who can do
Yeah.
this for hours on end.
Okay.
Because what I do isn't complex. It's just takes a lot of tools, to do it the way I'm doing it. And it's a system, right?
Okay.
It's the same way every time. A lot of drywall, you have to know a lot of things, right? To be a taper, have to know, how to coat bead, how to, properly tape everything so it doesn't fail.
Yeah.
Right. And every job's different. You go into a custom house, you have to know, okay, I got to start there, and do this and this step, and I got to put on the bead, and I got to, you got to learn. It takes at least a year. Like for me to teach a guy how to tape a house and leave him.
Yeah.
It would take at least a year, I would say.
Yeah.
To train them up and to trust.
At least. I mean, apprenticeship program's 3 years, which I don't think is far-fetched to learn, to be journeyman. I mean, they're giving it 3 years.
Yeah. But I figured just to get them so you can like not have to babysit them constantly, so you can come back and work on the job still.
Yeah.
But to get something done and have them making you money, rather than costing.
Yeah.
But for me, like with the ceilings, oh man, he can be making money day one for me, right?
Okay.
Because, just strap a sander onto him, or, you got to cover the floors, right? Because that's half my job is containment. So you gotta go, okay, cover all the floors, build the dust containment, mask this, mask that, okay.
Yep.
And then, okay, strap that sander on.
Yeah.
Go to town. And then, the trickier stuff like skimming it, I gotta go and do the repair work. But, a lot of that still is, okay, here's how to do a patch. Doesn't take long to train that. How to bust out a seam and make it disappear, that takes some practice. But that's something I can focus on myself, do the tricky stuff, but the rest of it, probably train, here's how to run a paint sprayer, that'll take a little bit of practice, but because I do everything start to finish, painted, done,
turnkey.
Painters anymore. I don't want to have that fight, like, oh, well, the joints are showing because of you. No.
Yeah. It's like, don't worry. Scrapey. Don't worry, painter. I'll just paint it. It's not that big a deal,
So I started doing all the painting myself, just so I can.
Although there was probably a learning curve for you to figure out that sprayer. I mean, that's definitely an art to, get good.
Oh yeah.
Get good at like laying down paint so it doesn't look like a hack job.
I have I have my system. It's done the same way. Well, also, so I know when I go back, I use this paint. I use this roller. If I have to match it.
Yeah.
Again, right? Because if you have to repair something, because the electricians went to town on it,
Swiss cheese.
So that's why I like my system, because I can go back. I know I used this flat ceiling paint, and I use this roller, so I can go back and match it, because I back roll everything, and I want everything to be able to match and whatnot. So again, systems. I love systems.
Yeah. Drywallers are all about systems. I mean, even the trim techs, specialty beads, it's about systems, and learning something new, learning those systems is challenging. But I think drywallers are system oriented, because drywall is a big system.
Yeah. If you don't do one right, it's going to bite you. That's, I think, a big part of why people are so reluctant to change and try something like fiber fuse, for example, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because if you screw up, if that fiber fuse fails, you're going back, and it could cost you 10 grand, if you do a big house and all of a sudden, that new tape that you tried fails on you. Well, and you got to go in and redo the whole freaking place.
Yeah.
So I can see why guys are afraid of change, right?
Yeah, sure.
If one step, oh my God, it costs you days, right?
Yeah.
I know it this way, and that's the way I do it, because I know that's the way it works. I don't want to risk it not work, right?
Scott Montgomery, Drywall by Design. What else? M Montgomery on Instagram. If you want to check out some of his photos, you do have a YouTube page. What's that?
Drywall by Design.
People can tap your Linktree account and then have access to all Scott's glorious links.
Yeah. I still have to work on that and build that again.
Okay, that's cool.
It's a work in progress, the whole thing.
One thing I asked at the end of every episode is a pearl of wisdom that you could bestow upon the drywall community. What would it be?
Oh, probably keep an open mind and be willing to try new stuff. Because that's changed everything that I've done. Right from day one, it's hey, trying to hawk and trowel, try a different system, basically.
Yeah.
On a small job or something like that.
Yeah.
Take a tip, learn, don't be so stuck in your ways.
Yeah.
So many people are. It's so bad. People bicker and fight and oh, my way's the best.
Yeah.
And be nice to people.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah. We're all in this together, man.
Yeah. My favorite people are, people that criticize, but positive criticism, right? When you see stuff online, not just oh, that's the wrong way, you suck, I'd never hire you, but hey, maybe try it this way.
Yeah, or ask the question. Ask the question why. What do you think of that tool? Where that helps you hold your hands up in the air. Would you buy that for that amount of money, and why? And it's oh, okay, well, he's doing it this way. The three-way. You've probably seen the three-way with Royce and Steve. It's a new way of doing corners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could easily put that down, be everybody does corners the same way. They all look good. I don't know why you'd waste the time or money on that. And it's well, Royce is an old school drywall dude, and he was fashioning those three ways to incorporate into his system before he even started marketing them. So I have to ask myself, oh, that's interesting. If Royce was doing that, then there must be some value to it. Why would he do that? What about that system made him so proactive that he invented a product around it, and my entrepreneur mind just wants to ask that question. That's interesting. If he's doing it, maybe it is faster,
Well, that's what I've always thought, is someone made this and someone got it to work. So I sometimes I'll just, I want to make this thing work. Even it costs me so much time. It takes me all day or whatever. Yeah. Someone made it work. But sometimes you run across stuff no, this is dumb. This is a waste of time. I mean, and you try it. I mean, I don't personally like the three-way thing, but I mean, I've been traveling for 15 years.
Yeah. But let me ask you this. Have you tried the three-way yet?
I did a couple times.
Couple times.
Maybe I have to practice more. But again, I don't do a lot of that anymore, right? I don't do new construction. I don't
Right.
I'm doing ceiling.
It'd have to be a situation where you're zooing out a whole house and then leaving those three ways till the end and then going through and having your apprentice put on all the three ways. Okay, well.
I mean, that's one thing I wanted to touch on. We run long, but that whole...
That's okay.
And when we were at Intex, it was very much focused. The whole theme of the show was products that made it easier for new guys to get into it. Less skill required. The whole show, it was automation and aids to get the labor market into whatever trade it was, right?
Yeah.
Make it easier. So you didn't need a 15-year guy, doing three weeks.
Right.
You could show a guy in much less time, or cutting tile, the reveal cut, cutting ceiling tiles. Yes. You can cut a ceiling tile. If you've been doing it for 15 years, maybe you can cut it better and quicker, but you can train a guy on this reveal cut or the what was that robot thing, right? They had their, you can get
canvas.
You can supplement the workforce. You can get a guy in there and making you money. Like I was talking before, it takes a long time to train someone to make you money.
Yeah.
Right before they're actually bringing you money in, but something like that three-way,
right?
They were going to make you money faster that day. three-way day instead of you wasting time doing three-ways.
Right.
You get this newer guy, he can do a three-way faster than he would, maybe he can't do a three-way without them, right? And
right.
That's the whole thing is,
and then that's the way he learns. That's the way he learns. And then he's doing three ways that way for the rest of his life.
Yeah, maybe. Right. I think that's the whole mindset. A lot of people are like, I don't want to do it that way. But you got to think of it as it from an employer's standpoint is like, what's going to make me money, right? You're costing me $40 an hour because you're a 15-year veteran. I can't hire, and there's none of you around. So I can't wait for you to be done. I need 20 of you, right? So you put some of that new innovation in and supplement your workforce with less skill, but technology or tools, innovations to supplement your workforce. Then those guys are making you money. They're not costing you money to train them for a year or 2 or 3 years. Making you money in 6 months. Or
it's a good point. That's a good point. That's an interesting observation about the show. A lot of that too is because of the limited workforce that we currently have. I think there's a lot of programs and information available now about why college maybe isn't the best route. You can jump into a trade. So they're addressing
that's a whole new show too. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I have so many thoughts on that too. It's
yeah, but well, maybe a part 2. I would like, for as much as possible, to do different shows. So different drywallers for each show. Becomes harder and harder to find people, but there's enough of us out there, man. We'll just keep going. They're pretty cool. I would recommend you checking out the show with Joe. It's really good. There's also one where I interview Bernie, the owner of Columbia Tools. Up in Vancouver. We went up there, and it's at his he's such a cool guy, and it's such a good interview.
Yeah, I met him years ago at a trade show here. He was him and Aaron were there, pitching their wares, right?
Yeah.
That was many years ago. I think I won an angle head or something like that there.
There you
go. Way back.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, man. This will drop whenever. We'll keep you posted. Try and get me some of the photos of Vegas. If you could dig some of those out, and we'll include those in the video that occurs with this show. There'll be a video as well. But thanks, man. I hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, you too, Nick. Nice talking to you.
All right, Scott. Bye.
See you, man.
Special thanks to Scott Montgomery for being with us on the Drywall Podcast today. I appreciate your time and your knowledge. Join us every Friday for a new episode of the Drywall Podcast on your favorite platforms such as Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also YouTube. A lot of people don't know you can listen to these entire episodes. They're all available on YouTube. Special thanks to our sponsor for the month of October, CSR Building Supply. You can find all your drywall supplies at CSR online, csrbuilding.com, or at 2 locations in Toronto or Barrie, Ontario. CSR is also giving out a sweet swag bucket to guests of the Drywall Podcast, full of all kinds of cool drywall stuff. Thank you so much for tuning into the Drywall Podcast. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and remember, keep drywalling.